So, welcome back, students. In our last discussion, we did talk about the equilibrium of a monopoly under the total cost, total revenue approach. And I hope, whatever explanation that I sent it to you earlier, I hope it is clear. So, after, besides the total cost, total revenue approach, we also have another approach which is referred to as the marginal cost or the marginal revenue approach, which they try to explain the equilibrium of a firm under monopoly. And here it says, as we all know, a monopolist, like any other producer, his main aim it is to maximize more and more profit. And in order to maximize profit, uh, a monopolist can either change the price level or change the output level. And talking about the price level, unlike the other market form, a monopolist do have absolute control over the price. That means no one has the right, no one has the power to interfere in his business. So he is that price maker who really has absolute control in fixing whatever price he wishes. So if uh, let's say if a monopolist wanted to maximize more, so he need to raise or increase the level of output, and in order to do so he might increase the amount of the variable inputs, such as the amount of labor, the amount of raw materials, etc. But he cannot change his fixed factors of production. And in short, if we talk about the marginal cost and the marginal revenue approach, it tried to explain that a monopolist will be in equilibrium, or he will be able, or his profits will be maximized at a point where his marginal cost curve equals his marginal revenue curve. So let's have a look at this very diagram carefully. So looking at this diagram, what we can see is that, again, as usual, the OX, the OY axis, the OX axis representing the level of output and the OY axis representing the price. We do have two downward sloping curves in the form of the average revenue curve or the demand curve, as well as the marginal revenue curve. They are both downward sloping. But besides these downward sloping curves, we also have two U-shaped curves in the name of the marginal cost curve as well as the average cost curve. So one of the main condition for this, according to this approach, for a monopolist to be in equilibrium, is that his MC it should equal his MR. So now let's have a look at that particular point in this particular diagram. This is his marginal revenue curve, and this is his marginal cost curve. This marginal cost curve did cuts the marginal revenue curve at the point E. So from the point of equality between the marginal cost and the marginal revenue, okay, that is from the point E, we extend upwards to meet the demand curve or the AR curve. We also extend downwards to meet the output axis. And in doing so, what happened was, from the point of equality between the MC and the MR, it did give us the equilibrium, did give us the equilibrium output, that is OQ, and also the price, which is QB or OP. So what happened is that this monopolist has been producing OQ level of output and charge QB as the price or the AR. Okay. So yes, after producing that level of output and charging that level of price, we do really wanted to know what happened to this monopolist, whether he is enjoying a profit or whether he's incurring a loss. And in order to know that, we need to look at his average cost curve. This is his average cost curve, okay? And at this level of output, at this level of price, okay, that is QB, what we can see is that we can see that this average cost curve that passes through, and yes, we have this very point, that is the point A, which means this monopolist is producing OQ level as output. His price or his AR is QB, whereas his average cost is QA. So, seeing that his price or his AR is greater than his average cost QA, which means this monopolist is enjoying a profit at the rate of or at the amount of AB per unit. And again, like what we, if you did recall what we did in our last class, if we multiply this profit per unit with the output, that is CA or Q or OQ, what we get was we get this box BACP. So this area, that is the BACP, represents the total profits that are being enjoyed by this monopolist, and such profits, they are referred to as the supernormal profits. So besides a situation where a monopolist is enjoying a supernormal profit, there are also situations when uh, a monopolist experience or enjoying only normal profits, and that is depicted in this particular diagram, that is in figure 2. If you go back to the figure, the first figure did represents how a monopolist is earning supernormal profits, whereas looking at this particular diagram, it depicts that a monopolist is only enjoying only normal profits. Again, as usual, the OX, the OY axis representing the output and the price level. We have the normal downward sloping curve, the AR or demand curve, as well as the marginal revenue curve. We also do have the two U-shaped curve by the name of AC and MC. Okay, this is the AC and this is the MC. Yes, in this very particular diagram, we also need to keep our eyes at that particular point where the MC equals the MR, because it is a very important condition for a monopolist to reach his equilibrium. If the two curves are not equal, if the marginal cost and his marginal revenue are not equal, that means he cannot be in equilibrium. Therefore, again, looking at this very diagram, if we look at this point E, yes, it did indicates where a monopolist MR, this downward sloping curve, equals the monopolist marginal cost. Okay, the marginal cost curve did intersects the marginal revenue curve at this very point E. So, as what we did earlier, we extend upwards to get the price, we extend downwards to get the output, which means this monopolist, again, he is producing OQ level of output at a price of QA. So, again, whether this monopolist is enjoying supernormal profits like before or even incurring a loss, we can know that just by looking at the average cost curve. Here we have this average cost curve. It's from here, it passes on, okay? And this average cost curve, it did touch the demand curve or the average revenue curve at the point A, okay? So it means, yes, this monopolist is producing OQ level of output at a price OP. And yes, at this level of output, at this much priced, okay, what we can say is that this QA, it is the price or his AR, okay. And what we want to know is how much is his average cost, okay. Looking at this average cost is somewhere uh, in this particular figure, okay. So what happened was, yes, from this particular area we can say that this A, it is his average revenue, and at the same time, since the average cost curve passes on through this very area, we can also say that this QA it is also his average cost. So which means in this particular situation, a monopolist, his average revenue or his price is the same as his EC. That means, or it indicates that there is no loss, that there is no profit, which means this particular figure it depicts that a monopolist is only earning only normal profits. That means no loss, neither no profits. Furthermore, the third diagram depicts another situation. It is not the same as the earlier two diagrams, the first and the second, but it depicts a totally different situation faced by a monopolist. Again, the same thing, just by looking at the diagram, what we can see is that this monopolist is producing OQ level of output, and his price or his average revenue, it is QA. Okay, how do we know that? It is through the intersection of his MC and MR we get this equilibrium point A. That is, from this equilibrium point A, we extend upwards to get the price, we extend downwards to get the output. So again, in this particular situation, he's been producing OQ at a price of QA. Okay, so yes, the price or his AR, it is QA. And how much is his average cost? We really wanted to know. And yes, looking at the average cost curve, the average cost curve, it is in this particular manner. Okay, that means the average cost curve lies on top or above of all the curves. So just by looking from this particular area, what we can say is that this is his average revenue, that is QA, and QB, it is his average cost. That means his cost is more than his revenue, which did indicate that this monopolist, he is incurring a loss. And he is incurring a loss at a rate of AB per unit. And multiplying this loss per unit AB with a total output PA or OQ, we get this total area, that is ABCP. This is the total loss that is being faced by a monopolist under this particular diagram, that means under this particular situation. And as such, this particular situation did indicates that a monopolist neither enjoying supernormal profits or neither he's enjoying only normal profits, but instead he did incur a loss in this particular situation. So if you talk about the equilibrium of a monopolist, according to the marginal cost, the marginal revenue approach, it indicates that this approach says that a monopolist will be in equilibrium after fulfilling those certain conditions. That means the equality between MC and MR, the MC must cut MR from below. But even after fulfilling those certain important situations, there are situations where a monopolist enjoying supernormal profits, enjoying only normal profits, and even did incur a loss. So this is an explanation of the marginal revenue, marginal cost approach, showing or explaining the equilibrium of a monopolist under according to the marginal cost, marginal revenue approach. So we'll stop here for today. Thank you.